fast you were going?
What? How fast we're going?
I don't know. 10?
8.
Be advised, this is an explicit podcast. If you're easily offended, get your panties twisted into a knot. Leave now. Run in your safe space. Get your little cloth for your tears. All the opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and his guest and do not reflect the opinions of any local or government agency. Welcome to MOTORCOP Chronicles podcast. I'm your host, Iceman. We have a very special guest, another podcaster, law enforcement professional also. His name's Charlie from let me get it right now, the 10-8 Memes podcast, correct?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So it's 10-8 Memes, and then we got the 10-8 podcast.
Okay.
But,
I just combined it together.
Nope, that's perfectly fine. It's kind of all gone one way or another at some point, so it's all good.
I mentioned it last night. Today's Thursday. Yeah, I mentioned it last night on the live show for the other people that were listening there. So this is Charlie. He is on. What you did? You did like 7-8 years on the patrol on the streets. And
I did about 6 years on the streets, and now I'm 6 months into dispatch. So
dispatching can be difficult work also. I mean, I'm not like some of the other just street cops because I got stuck on light duty one time from a motorcycle crash, and let me tell you what, I'm not built for dispatching because I'm either typing on a computer or talking on the phone, and it's real hard for me to do both at the same time.
Right.
I am not.
Yeah, it took me a long time not a long time, but it took me a minute to get acclimated to doing that. And not only that, but like listening to what the person's saying on the phone as you're typing. Like, it's one thing to be like, all right, hold on, stop talking for a second. And it's taken me a long time to get used to that, to the point now I can basically do it. My center is very small. We at most we're gonna have 4 people on the floor, but one person works radio, the other guys work the phones. But at a moment's notice, the guy on the phone could be working radio if the guy on the radio gets tied up on something. So that's really the difficult part, where you're talking on the phone, you got officer asking for something, you got to key up, and you got to make sure that you're answering them, not the person on the phone. It gets pretty hectic. And then if we have like a high priority call come in, or you just got a lot of moving parts on a call, you're really multitasking, and it, for guys with ADHD like me, or undiagnosed, but it gets, it's kind of like, all right, what was I working on 2 seconds ago? Because I can't remember. I'm still working on that. I'm not perfect at that just yet, but
They make medication for that.
Yeah, I know. For sure. It's I did 6 years on the road, but for about a year and a half of it, I was in narcotics, and but like not like jump out street crimes. I was more long-term investigations, and it's the hardest part for me was the time management. So I would have 5 different cases on my desk, and I'd be like, all right, I would make one a priority, and I was like, all right, I'm going to put all my eggs in that basket and start working on it until the sergeant then goes, hey, what happened to this one? And I was like, damn it. Okay, now I'm going to focus on this. And that's when things would get all jumbled. And that's ultimately being honest, that's where I failed. It was like, I couldn't manage all those cases, especially going completely, devoting enough time to each individual case. So I was like, you know what, let me go back to patrol. Let me work one call at a time, and that's it. I don't have to keep following up on things, and it's tough. And especially like before I left the road, my ultimate goal was to become a detective, like a major case detective. So I definitely had some more learning and living to do before I made that jump, because same thing, if you're going to be working upstairs or anything, you're going to have multiple cases on your boat.
Oh yeah, well, there's plenty of law enforcement people on Adderall and Ritalin and stuff like that. A couple years back, I always have problems. My problem was when it came to sitting down and writing reports.
Mm-hmm.
It would take me 2 hours to write a 30-minute report because I'd end up start doing this, and also the next thing I'm over here not writing my report, doing something else. So I finally ended up talking to my doctor. I'm like, look, someone's got to get out. It's like, it's taking me 2 hours to write a 30-minute report because it's just like I keep. They ended up putting me on Ritalin, and I've been on it for years now. And I mean, it made a big difference. I can just sit down and I can focus on one thing at a time now instead of like almost like, oh hey, look, a squirrel, and you scurry off over there.
Yeah, for sure. There's two different ways. So it's funny this came up. On my show, I linked up with a she's a lady with a PhD. Her dad is a New Orleans cop actually. And so we've talked a lot. She's been on my show a couple times now for different science-based episodes, one of them being ADHD. She's the first person that, having a conversation with her, I was like, maybe that is me. And I've learned so much about it, but I've yet to be officially diagnosed yet. But it's as soon as I can get into a doctor's office, I'm going to be like, listen, this is my life. This is how I do things. But the last doctor I talked to, they were like, oh, were you hyper as a kid? And I was like, no. And then as the more I research, it's like, that is such an old school way of thinking of ADHD. Like the scatterbrainness is so me. Like it's funny because my girlfriend and I are different, but similar. She's OCD. I live in organized chaos, but we both have this whole ADHD thing going on as far as like when we clean the house, we'll be like, all right, we're cleaning something here. This has to go back into this room. We go there, then we start cleaning that room that we walked into. So it's crazy. But that's one of the ways ADHD can affect you is like, one of them is you can't stay still on one idea, or one is you stay still on this one idea for so long. And then the other one comes in and you stay on this one for so long. And it's it's a jumbling effect. But I've talked to a lot of people, a lot of cops. Actually, another Louisiana cop who's from up in my neck of the woods in Jersey, who's a transplant, and she said that actually, I think I'm switching people around, but either way, saying that when she started taking medication for it, it changed her life. Like it was amazing how normal she finally felt. And I was like, that's crazy. And I started asking her, I was like, so wait, do you like go in a room and not forget why you went in that room? She goes, oh no, I remember everything. I'm like, this is insane. This is like a whole different world here. So I'm very interested to see how my job performance will change if I get onto some kind of medication that'll help mitigate that, just because I always thought that I was just scatterbrained, but to know that, oh no, there might actually be a medical diagnosis that's the issue. Yeah,
there's lots of people that's like, oh, what's this, that? Of course, I'm older than you. When I was a kid growing up, it was like, oh, that's what they called it. Oh, he's just hyper. Don't give him no more red Kool-Aid, no sugar and stuff like that, because, they just called it hyperactivity and you get your ass whipped and because you didn't listen. But, no, it helps out a lot. So you can get that checked out.
Yeah. I was telling you earlier, I was on a podcast last night and it was a mental health based podcast. And I had in a very like touch and go statement, I said about ADHD. At the end of the podcast, the host goes, so she asked if I was hyper as a kid, and I said no. And then she goes, I want to tell you about some symptoms of being ADHD. And she's like, well, being very talkative is one. And we were supposed to be on for an hour. We were on for 3 hours because I just couldn't shut up. Like, she's like, this is one of them. And then she was like, how's your caffeine tolerance? I was like, oh, it's super high. Like, it doesn't, pick me up. It's kind of like just keeps me mellow. And she's like, yeah, that's another sign. And she just keeps checking off. I was like, oh, can you tell my doctor this? Because I've been saying it for over a year now.
Yeah, it's like everybody's like, oh, I need to go get an energy drink. No, I like the White Monsters. Mm-hmm. But it's not because they give me energy. I just like the way it tastes. Because everybody's like, I can drink an energy drink, and it don't do shit for me.
Yes.
Like, absolutely nothing. So
I'm the same way. So when I was in the police academy, in where I was in Florida, and a lot of places here in Florida, actually, it's different than most of the places in the country, where it's built into a community college and it's treated the exact same way. So Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, you're in the community college. setting. You didn't have to be sponsored to go. You didn't have to be hired by an agency. You could just pay your way through. And that's what I did. I didn't even know that you could get hired by a police department and they would pay for you to go through the academy. Didn't even know that existed. So I paid my way to go to the academy, but I also still had bills to pay. So I worked. So I would go to the academy Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, but from 6 to 11 after the academy, I went to work and I worked in the call center. So what I would do is I would get off the academy, drive to work. I would bring a change of clothes. I would change in the bathroom. I would go to work, get off. I would go to home, which I lived with my family at the time. So they would if I was lucky, they would leave a plate of food out for me. Not always though. And I would make a cup of coffee because I needed just a little bit more pep, I guess. I think it was mind over matter at that point, but I would drink that. I would iron my uniform. I would shine my boots. I'd go to bed. No issues. I had no issues sleeping. And then in the academy, I would, same thing. So that would be my daily routine. And so, yeah, I could drink a cup of coffee and go right to sleep. And that's how it is today.
No, I got you. Like I said, that coffee don't really ever really affected me or anything like that at all.
Nope.
So.
I was challenged by one of my podcast guests back in January because it was about 10 o'clock at night and I was interviewing her, and it was a mental health and physical health episode. And we're talking just like you and I are. And instead of having a beer or whatever, or water, I had a Red Bull because I just left the gym and I was just using the Red Bull half for like enjoyment, half for thinking that it would just carry me until time to go to bed. And she yelled at me. She's like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "We're talking about taking care of your body and you're here sucking down a Red Bull at 10 o'clock at night." So she challenged me for a week to not touch any caffeine after noon. Which wasn't impossible. I did it. The first day I actually had no caffeine because I slept till about 11:30. So by the time I got my ass out of bed, it was already noon. So I couldn't touch caffeine. Got a migraine that day. That sucked. But I did. And I will say that when I did cut out caffeine, or when I limited my caffeine for that week, I slept great. Like probably some of the best sleep I've gotten in a long time. So it's different. I don't think that it doesn't stop me from going to sleep. I've never had that issue, but I think the quality of my sleep is probably impacted at that point.
Yeah. Well, I know night shift cops have sleep issues and stuff like that. When I first started, I was a night shift cop. Uh-huh. Of course, that's where everybody wants to start out at, is on night shift, because that's when all the good shit happens. Mm-hmm. It's at night.
Oh yeah, I prefer nights. When I was working the road, I worked nights the whole time except when I worked narcotics. That was a more day swing shift kind of schedule. But I, just like you said, I liked getting into shit. I liked making car stops, getting into cars, arresting people like that. Also, that's where you get the most fun in progress calls too, like the burglaries in progresses, the car breaks, the stuff like that. And obviously there's more room for proactivity at night too. And so I always preferred it, and I prefer it now too, even in dispatch, for different reasons. So where I moved from a inner city, busy, lots of calls. Now it's much more suburban. Families go to sleep at 10 o'clock and nothing happens after that. Because only time we really get called are when families are fighting or people are ODing. That's about it.
Civil disturbances.
Yeah. So days are slamming. Nights, nothing happens after 10. If I was on the road at this agency, I'd either be bored out of my mind, or I'd be, the one kicking all the wasp nests that they didn't know existed, and I'd be stopping all the cars. But I want to go to night shift now just for personal schedule reasons. But because of nothing happening at night in the dispatch world, the dispatchers want to work at night because they got less to do. So
catch up on them Jerry Springer shows.
Yeah, absolutely.
Find out who the baby daddy is.
Oh man, I watched so many different, when I was on nights for training and stuff at this agency. I watched so many different shows and stuff at night on dispatch. Now at days, HGTV is like, that's a big thing. Lots of the biddies in dispatch watch HGTV, which I don't mind because I'm looking at getting a house soon, so it's not terrible. But
it's like, did you know that you could build a whole boat out of Flex Seal?
right, exactly. I used to love nights. When I was in my main squad, got kicked around from a few different squads for different reasons. But when I found the squad that I fit the best in at night, I wasn't even I think amongst us, I was the most senior, but I wasn't the most senior on the squad. But there were five guys and then me. So 6. And each one of them had a different role in my life. So I had my one buddy, John. If I wanted to get into some shit, I wanted to, use of forces, chases, whatever, I'd hang out with him for the night. If I just wanted to answer some calls, do some traffic stops, write a few tickets, be busy, but ain't getting in trouble tonight, I would do the 3 middles. If I want to just kick it for the night and not do anything, I went to my girl down the 5th one, and we would sit in the parking lot and just BS. But there was time and a place for every single one of those groups, and my sergeants didn't give a damn. They were like, hey, it works. You guys are fine. Except for when me and my buddy John would get into stuff, after a while, they'd be like, all right, you two separate. Where I'm done writing what we call blue teams when you get into use of force. I'm done writing them for the week. Just go do something else. But I mean, me and John would get into some stuff, man. There was a vacant lot. It was owned by like a real estate firm or something, but it was just vacant, but it was right up to the river. So people would park there. They'd either watch the sunset and smoke a little dope. They would do dope deals. They'd go swimming in the river, a bunch of stuff, usually nothing good. And we would always go, that was the honey hole. We would go there and we do something. If we wanted stats, we'd go there. So one day we get a call because it was right next to a condo. And the condo was like, hey, there's people swimming in the river. I was like, lady, mind your business. But whatever. We go there. And sure enough, there's these 3 20-somethings. And they're swimming and like, hey, you actually can't be here. It's posted no trespassing. You being here is against the law or against the sign. I technically can arrest you. I don't want to. So just get to kicking. Well, we identify everybody. It's 2 guys and a girl. The one guy had a warrant out of a nearby county. I was like, hey man, hate to do this to you, but you got a warrant. You gotta go. Then everyone started acting a fool. His buddy, the guy that we were arresting, no problem. He's like, oh, my bad. I didn't know I had that. Whatever. It is what it is. The buddy was an asshole. The buddy was like, no, you ain't taking him. You're doing it because he's black. I'm like, no, I'm doing it because he has a warrant. Like, I ran you too. You're clean. Get out of here. So he starts talking all this shit. And we're like, dude, just go. You're not in trouble. Just go. We'll get you his information. You can call the jail and do what you got to do. He starts leaving. We're like, all right, we're cool. And it was the dude and his girlfriend, and she was going with him. The dude comes back because he was nice and liquored up while we're, getting all the stuff organized. And he's like, no, fuck you, cops. Fuck you, crackers. Again, this is a white guy. Fuck you, crackers. And he starts whipping out his dick. And my buddy John's like, hell no.
He actually literally wanted to fuck you.
I guess. So my buddy John grabs him in a bear hug and he suplexes the guy on the ground. We're like, we're not playing this game no more. So did we need to do that? Maybe not. I don't know. But we hooked him up. We're like, all right, now you got resisting and trespassing charges. Get out of here. Now the chick, she's on the street. She's good. She comes back and she says, what are you doing? And I was like, he was being a dick by showing his dick. We're done here. And so she's like, well, he's my ride. Can you arrest me too? I'm like, no, leave. And she refused to leave. So we had to hook her too. And then when we got her to transport, or we got all 3 of them, she was the worst. She was the one kicking and screaming and screaming bloody murder. Oh, they raped me, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, are you me? You were the one that was not in trouble out of all 3 of you, and you're acting the fool.
You volunteered to go to jail. That was laughing though, because that guy literally got his dick knocked in the dirt.
Literally, yeah.
just literally, his dick was not knocked in the dirt.
Oh man, it was.
It's like I don't understand why he just whipped his dick. I mean, was that supposed to intimidate you?
I don't know. He's literally
fear
we
my.
Watch as we're writing the use of force. We're watching our body camera. Like, why did he do that? He couldn't just come up and say, "Fuck you guys." No, he literally whipped it out.
Fear my cock. It's like, what the hell's wrong with you?
I don't know, man. It just listen. I've drank with the best of them, and I've never been like, you know what I got to do tonight? whip my dick out in front of a cop.
Yeah, I'm just gonna whip it out and just show it to him. Look at this big boy. God,
I have no idea. I felt bad for the black dude. He was the coolest one. Like, I was like, bro, what happened? And he's like, she's nuts. And I was like, yeah, you think?
He is too, obviously.
Yeah. He had nothing to say about his buddy. I guess he must be used to him. I don't know.
Jesus.
But, like, that, I mean, that was just like an example of the shit we would get into. Like, that was not, we didn't have to go that far, but it just happened. Like, we just brought out the best in people.
Well, I mean, he pulled his dick out, so I mean.
Right. No, they definitely escalated it, but it was only when me and John were together. Like, if it was me and the other guys, we never really got into shit like that.
Basically, John was the shit magnet.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just like running around with him because it was fun. So if he's listening to this, I'm sure he remembers that story. There's another one where we had a Hard Rock Cafe or whatever in the jurisdiction, and there was a VIP party, and it was like, I don't know, probably $500 to get in.
Damn.
And
a good party.
Yeah, it was, I think some rapper was hosting it, I think, and some kid, like 17, 18-year-old kid, snuck in. I think it had to be 18 because he was not a juvenile, and he snuck in. And he was drinking people's bottles of champagne, just grabbing them and chugging them. And so when hotel security found him, they're like, you need to go. And they described him as a short white kid, skinny, with like a triple XL purple button-up shirt. How are you going to miss that, right?
Well, he basically had a curtain. If he was skinny with a triple XL.
Oh, yeah, it was huge on him.
I'm a big guy and wear 2X.
Yeah, it was huge on him. It was like, yeah, oh, you know, in the cartoon movie Pinocchio, the cats, I can't remember their names at this moment, but the two cats that like take him to the island of lost boys or whatever. The one cat, not the main one, but the kind of goofy one, he wore a shirt where like it covered his hands. That's what this guy looked like. And so we see him, and before we even get on scene to the hotel, and we see him, like, oh, perfect, this is our guy. And because how are you going to miss him? And we get out with him, like, hey man, you know, blah 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 blah, talking about him. He's like, no, that didn't happen. And he takes off running from me and John. And John and I just grab him because the dude wasn't quick, and we grabbed him by his oversized sleeve, and we his face met the concrete because just, you know, for the momentum he was going. And I'm like, all right, well, we're gonna hook him. We didn't even make contact with the hotel, and you know, my supervisor shows up, or not even. We called arrest, which for us is called 1015. We called 1015, and we're gonna take him to the firehouse to get him cleaned up. He got a little bloody lip, and she's like, whoa, what just happened? And we tell her, and she goes, no. You go back to that hotel, you get him identified, blah 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 blah. It's like, I don't need to, but okay, that's fine. And we end up going back, and the hotel originally did not want to press charges, and we're like, hold on a second. I was like, let me tell you what just happened. And I break it down to him. I'm like, you know, this guy ran from us. He busted his lip. Now I got a supervisor telling me that, you know, we may have violated his rights, which I know we didn't, but I'm going to need you to reconsider what you just told me. And then I was like, how much was it was a single bottle of champagne? And they told me, or I said, how much was a ticket? To $500, blah, blah. Basically, we got them to press charges for grand theft for the champagne that he chugged, on top of his other charges that he had in our presence. So it was just a shit show. And that was just a nightly occurrence with me and John. So eventually they moved him to the other side of the district, so we couldn't play anymore. And, you know, it's all fine and dandy, but it was just crazy stuff. I know he remembers that one. We talked about it last week. It's good stuff. And that's the kind of stuff that you work on night shift, where if you're working day shift, you're not going to get into that kind of stuff. You might get into a few things, but it's not going to be as fun.
Yeah, you'll get some stuff on days, usually on holidays or weekends most of the time.
Yeah.
Or late in the afternoon. But other than that, you know, I don't know.
Late in the afternoon, yeah, right.
The agency you work for, I mean, both of the agencies I've worked for, I mean, day shift, you're unlocking cars, because we still unlock cars. Get pretty good at breaking in cars.
Yeah.
with a Slim Jim and stuff, and they got that big rod you can use now. You know, taking, my neighbor's dog shit in my yard complaints.
Oh,
and
yeah.
just shit like that.
I took a call this morning where the guy was like, oh, my neighbor just cut the grass and he blew the clippings onto my yard. He did it out of spite. I want to press charges. Man,
for
if you
what?
don't get off my phone. Yeah.
I had a woman call in one time, 100 years ago, and I was still in uniform. I got dispatched to an animal complaint, so I get over there, and this woman actually told me that she's like, I'm like, well, what's wrong? She says, my neighbor's dog came over here and raped my dog. And I have a purebred dog, and it was a mutt. I said, did your dog say stop at any point in this? And she's looking at me like I'm stupid. I'm like, did she say stop? Did she resist? And she's looking at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, well, I mean, how do you know the dog didn't want it? Just stupid shit like that. Yeah. And I actually wrote that report like that.
Yeah.
Lady claims that neighbor's dog came over and raped her dog. She could not advise if her dog resisted or said stop at any point. I turned that shit in for detectives. I did. I was like, y'all gonna have to read this shit too.
Yeah. If I have to deal with it, you are too. When I first got hired, I was a civilian. I had to work the front desk, and we could write reports. And my sergeant at the time was a reserve sergeant, and his rule was, hey, they show up, they want to report, they get a report. Doesn't matter how crazy it is, how stupid it is, they want to report, they get it. I had this one guy, I had two of them. One, this lady both of them were nuts, but one of them, this lady thought her daughter was Nicki Minaj, the rapper, and that people were trying to extort money from her. Such and such, so many different, it was so convoluted, but she wanted the report. So we wrote the report, and I had a trainee as a civilian. I still had a trainee, and he was like, how do I write this? I was like, what she put in that statement, you say the complainant said, and then you just copy it. Just don't try to creative write it. Don't make it a story. You say what she said, and that's it. Cause that's as far as it's going to go.
Complainant stated this.
Yeah. And that's it. The other one, this guy said, basically he retold the story of the Expendables, but with him being a main character, basically saying that Al Pacino and Arnold Schwarzenegger were, Al Pacino wasn't in the Expendables, but we're trying to, they were all part of this government conspiracy to get him, and that the government put a listening device up his nose, and they were all trying to extract it from just all this crazy stuff. And we had to write the report. And I'm like, this is the stupidest thing. There was also a meatball Parmesan sandwich involved in his story at some point. It was just, I feel, I don't know why they got rid of the state mental institution system, but
yeah, it must be like we are with our state. They shut down all the state mental hospitals and basically let all the nut bags out, and there's nowhere to put them now, unfortunately. And I will be serious for a minute, people. Y'all know I'm usually not serious. Mental health issues is a you hear about it on the news and stuff like that. It's a big thing. And when you're trying to deal, we're law enforcement. We're not mental health people. You're trying to deal with these people. We only usually have one avenue, is to put them in jail.
Right.
They could
here
be
in
dangerous.
Florida, you can take them to a hospital, and they'll do a 75 or 72 hour hold or minimum or maximum. I'm sorry. Anything else, you need a court order. But if they're crazy, then they're not going to go into involuntary confinement. They have to say that they want to kill themselves or somebody else. So if they're just nuts like Mr. Meatball Parm, then he gets his little case slip. All right, have a nice day.
Yep,
he's going to go do something else.
That's when he gets out.
Yeah.
Because it's an issue everywhere. I don't know why they shut down all these state mental hospitals.
It's obviously there were issues. So when I got hired, we had to sit through crisis intervention training, and we watched the movie they showed us was probably from the 80s, talking about the mental health crisis. And oddly enough, it was published by the state of Florida, but it featured my city as one of the go-to places for crazies. It's funny. Yeah. And which I know that's not the politically correct term for these emotionally disturbed people. But
I'm not PC at all.
But listen, if you are in a crisis, if you're, bipolar, suicidal, whatever, that's one thing. But when you are thinking that Al Pacino's coming after your nose, you're a little crazy there. But yeah, so it showed that. And Yes, at one point the state mental health facilities were so poorly ran, and they were mistreating people, and I get it, and I think that's really why they got all shut down. But they also shouldn't be just wandering around the streets and causing other issues for other people, namely first responders, but really anybody. If you've ever been accosted by somebody on the, at a gas station, with a story like that, or panhandling you're a victim of this flawed mental health system, and it's sad and it's frustrating at the same time.
Yeah, I had a woman, I can say her name. I don't know if I said this story before, but I got called to her. She used to call all the time. She hated me. She would actually call, and it was if she was in my zone, and she would ask them not to send me, particularly, but they would send me anyway because I was the only one in that zone.
Yeah, yeah.
And I went over there one time, and she wanted me to arrest her husband because he was a lazy bastard, and all he did was sit in his chair, watch TV, smoke cigarettes, and fart all day. Well, I look at the husband, and he ain't got no legs, like double amputee. He used to work for the railroad company, got run over by a train, no legs, like above the knee, no legs. And she's like, that lazy. I said, what the hell you want to do? Push him over the yard? I looked at her. I'm like, what you want to do? I said, he ain't got no damn legs. He has no legs. You don't have magic. You don't have Lieutenant Dan legs or nothing. He has no fucking legs. And it's like, she's like, get out my house, you motherfucker. I'm like, all right, give me the key, because I had to climb over that 10-foot chain link fence you got. I ain't giving you the key. All right. Send me to the fire department. We cut the lock off of it. No, yeah, this bitch was just plumb crazy. Was mad at her husband because, I don't know what she wanted him to do. But what she wanted him to do? He had no legs. You can't put him on a riding lawnmower. You can't stop the damn thing. You ain't got no legs.
Right. You need the hand control.
I
was pretty good on the road, like entertaining the people with just the crazy stories and stuff. But there was one, I was still new. And my zone partner, we went to the academy together. He got through training a little bit before me. And we're at this lady's house, and she's nuttier than a squirrel turd. And she's saying that she's Janis Joplin. She was definitely not Janis Joplin. And someone was across the street injecting her with poison through a needle from across the street. And I lost it. I started laughing. I walked away, and she goes, he's laughing because he thinks I'm crazy. I was like, yeah, you're right.
Basically, yeah.
That was the most conscious thought you said all day. I didn't say it to her, but I thought it. And I pulled my buddy aside later. I'm like, dude, I'm sorry. I'm good at keeping a poker face in these situations, but she lost me when she said she was Janis Joplin. Like, that's the only thing that would have made it like funnier if it was like a dude. Like a just that person, but a dude saying he was Janis Joplin, and it was bad.
Oh, great, crazy people some can be very entertaining, and some are very dangerous.
Of course, yeah.
Besides the cock boy, have you had any other naked calls involving naked people? Because Freebird, who's helps out with the podcast a lot. He was a reserve for like 15 years. He has never had a naked call.
Really?
No, and he's jealous. He's jealous.
Man, I've had naked calls. I just got to think about we had a sergeant when I was still reserve, and he was, at the time he was probably in his 60s. He was our reserve sergeant. He had done probably 40, 50 years on the job from start to where he was. And I remember some naked lady was running down the street. He got on the radio and said, oh, she's naked as a jaybird. It was just the funniest thing, just the way he said it, just his old South Carolina vernacular and everything. Oh man, I worked in the bar district, and so people were always naked for some reason or another. Bar fights, chicks always seem to lose their mini skirts or whatever. Or their hair, like they always pull out their wigs. It's just crazy. But I'm trying to think of like a good naked lady or naked dude. Oh, here's one. I wasn't involved in this, but this was like bad. I really hope the girl involved listens to this, because it was crazy. I was off, I think, or I was working something else, but I saw it on Facebook or YouTube or whatever later. So we had a big special event in town, and one of our local frequent flyers was at the gas station right where the special event was, causing an issue at the convenience store. Excuse me. And he is I think they just didn't want to serve him because he was high. And so the officers responded to get him to leave. It's always the trespassing calls. It's always the ones where there's like, we're not going to arrest you if you leave, and then they got to act a fool.
They don't want to leave.
Yeah. And so he whips it out, and he starts pissing on the store door, and now we got issues here, and so they're like chasing him around. There's a car, I think it was like an SUV, parked right, probably in the handicap spot, and he's like running around, and they're chasing, and they finally get him like squared up, and I think she was trying to tase him, and which, I mean, that's a bad day if you're getting tased with your dick out. Yeah. Which, by the way, that just gave me another one, so I will tell you this story after that. So out of nowhere, so it's two females, my one female friend Dominique, and then another female officer that worked there. And I dropped her name just so when she's listening, she can tune in on that. Not to dime her out like that, but anyway, so they're there, they're doing contact cover, no big deal. They're trying to keep distance from the naked man with the pee-pee dick. And then out of nowhere, like, you remember the Super Bowl commercial probably from like 10, 12 years ago now, the Office linebacker, where they're working in the office, and out of nowhere, Terry Tate comes over and just pancakes the guy, like Jim from accounting. Yeah, out of nowhere, this one of our guys comes and just flats the dude. Just, he was not expecting it, and they take him down. And I mean, the man's naked at this point. He just took all his shit out. So he hits the pavement, and the video was from a third party camera. So it wasn't body camera or anything. So you saw the whole thing, and you just hear everyone go, "Oh!" Like, he just hit the deck. Like, he knocked the soul out of that man. It was amazing. I got to find it because it was hilarious.
You could make a perfect video out of that with the Leroy Jenkins audio.
Yes. That would be spot.
That would be great. You know what I'm talking about. That audio.
I do, yeah.
Yeah. So they had that one video I saw. They did it where the cops are following in the unit with the bad guy or something, and all of a sudden they did Leroy Jenkins and this other cop car
and just
runs him over.
Yeah. Yep, I remember that one. Yep. Oh man, that was so crazy. So the other story that made me think of, a little more serious. I was on narcotics, so middle of the day. Remember, I said nothing crazy happens in the middle of the day. This is an exception. We got a call. It was an active it came in as a suspicious incident, but the guy was trying to make it sound like it was an active shooter. Basically, the guy called 911 and said, "Hey, I just killed a bunch of people at this hotel, and I'm going to kill more." Well, the problem with the way he said it was no one believed him, because the hotel, no one else called, and that's kind of a big
weird
sign.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we get to the hotel, and it didn't come from the hotel line. It came from a cell phone that was pinging in the hotel, or that's where the phase 2 location was. So we get to the front desk and say, "Hey, we're looking for a phone number. It seems to come back to this person." And they're like, "Yep, he's up in room 604, like really high up." So because of the allegations, there was a bunch of us anyway. There was about 4 of them plus hotel security that took the stairs. And me and my buddy went, "Why are you taking the stairs all the way to the 6th floor? We're taking the elevator." So me and my buddy get in the elevator. We go up to the 6th floor. And I was instantly thinking, all right, we might be going into an ambush. Like, this sounds way too funky. So we get off the elevator. The room was to the right, because you know how, like, on elevators at the hotels, it says like, "Oh, this room this way, this." Okay. So it was to the right, but I went to the left because it was a T hallway, and I was like, this guy could be waiting around the corner to cap us. So I go, I clear, it's not there. As I'm clearing, my buddy goes, "He's right here. Show me your hands." So I about face and run it. Guy was butt naked, standing probably 30 yards away from us. 30 feet away from us, butt naked, and he's holding knives, like a couple switchblades, a couple pocket knives, and he's holding them. So my buddy's trained on him with his gun. I got my gun out, and then he's like, no, they're just knives. Get the taser. So I get my taser out. Now we got the fancy new Taser 7s that have the further darts. They have the standoff darts. I deployed both of them, but we were still too far away. Okay. At this point, Joe, Dick, and Harry, the ones that took the stairs, they finally get there and they go, oh, we got some real shit going on here. So they run up, they take their tasers out. Now with ample people, they make entry into the room. They start popping them with the tasers. Every single one of those people shot him with the taser, except for my one buddy that was still trained on with the gun. So when you see the video, and it went viral, it was on certain people that we were talking about before we pressed record. It was on their channel where they were critiquing it. He said some not nice things about me, but that's whatever. He's like, I've never seen a taser work from that far. Man, it was not as far as it looked in the thing. I thought we were good. Anyway, and you look in there, and the guy looks like Spider-Man with all the different cables going to him.
All the leads.
Yeah. So they go. And at this point, I didn't go in the room because A, I was already out of taser cartridges, and B, someone had to take some kind of incident command. And I was like, all right, everyone get out of the room. There's no one in the room except him. We'll treat him as a barricaded subject. If he wants to come out or if he wants to charge us, we'll handle it accordingly, but get out. So we pull out of the room. We keep a visual on him. At this point, at some point, one of the geniuses puts his taser away and sprays OC in the room. So now we're all in the hotel gagging and coughing, but not the guy that's been shot with 7 tasers. He's fine, but we're all fucked up. So I don't know why he thought that, but that's a different story. So at this point, we get, supervisors show up, sergeants, lieutenants, and their captains show up. I don't know why the captain showed up, but they did. And they're doing an incident command right in the hallway of this room, waiting for the dude to come out. They try to hostage negotiate him. Nothing's going on. So eventually they go grab the 40 Mike, and they're like, all right, we're going in there and we're going to take him out with us. We're going to figure this out. So we make a stack. We go in, hit him with 140 Mike, and he's like, nothing. He just like makes a face like, really? You thought that would hurt me? The second one is what got him though. We hit him, and the man, he like looked, and you just hear the like primordial, like, oh, like that got him. It was it. He falls to the floor. We get him. At one point he threw knives at us. He hit my buddy in the vest. But he threw them. He wasn't like actively stabbing. So it literally just was an object hitting him and falling. And put him into custody. Only then did whatever high he was on break. And he was like, we shot the man in the dick. There was a taser probe in the man's dick. And
who took that one out?
Yeah. So, and then he's like, oh man, my eyes burn, my skin burns. So now he's starting to feel, whatever excited delirium he was on or whatever started to drop. His suicide by cop attempt did not pan out, which was good. He's in prison now. And, but it was just talk about naked man. Like and again, Florida naked man, He took 7 tasers, 1 to the dick, OC, 240 Mike rounds, and he finally gave up.
I wonder if he pees outside of his dick now.
Probably.
It's like, stand by. It's like, stop. Why are you facing me? Because it comes out. that has to hurt like a son of a bitch pulling that probe out your dick.
And I don't know if you know about the Taser 7, but the needles are much bigger than the previous tasers. So like there's a special, now there is, but before it was just you grab some pliers and yank it. So it was not a good time for him.
Jesus.
Yeah. So
you're like a dick magnet.
Yeah. Right.
Stay away from them. People can pull their dicks out. He didn't pee on their body.
Yeah, it was pissing on people, just whipping it out, getting tased in it. I have an ongoing joke on my page where it's like, if you get a naked woman call, it is never the naked woman you want to see. Like you're gonna think that you're gonna go see like, some hot, even if it's like a 20, 21, 22-year-old female, it's still not the female you want to see.
No, it's the meth head with swords all over.
Yeah, and it's terrible. I had one. Like I said, I worked the bar district, so occasionally I would get like the college age ones that were attractive, but at that point they're so fucked up that they're any chance of them being any kind of attractive is gone. When I was still working transport, I picked her up, and she must have been on like MDMA or something, because she was high and low. Like she would go from like, oh, you're cute, to fuck 12, blah blah blah. So got her in the wagon, whatever, and I was driving it. I had to go make a pickup at the hospital because a guy that they had fought just got cleared, and he was still squirrely. We threw him in the van, and I was part time. I wasn't even a full time cop at the time, and he. So I assumed that the senior officers searched him and did everything they needed to do. So we're driving and leave the hospital, and I had to get paperwork or property or something for Miss MDMA. And so I get like halfway back to that part of the station. We had 2 districts. I get back to that one, and they can hear on the radio, she's kicking. She had slipped her cuff. She's hitting it up against the plexiglass, which was right against my head. And the dude was carrying on. They're like, listen, just go straight to the jail. We'll meet you out there. No big deal. I was like, all right, cool. So I hit another U-turn at this point, and I'm going out towards the jail. We get probably, I don't even get there, and someone's like, hey, I got Crazy Dudes, the guy, I got his property all filled out. So we meet up in a mall parking lot. They give it to me, and I'm back on my way. I get probably, I don't know, quarter mile down the road, and I hear Mr. Crazy go, I'm going to hang myself. And I look in the camera in the back compartment of the van, and sure enough, he never got his belt taken off him, and he's got it wrapped around his neck, and he's like trying to put it on, we had like the divider between the 2 compartments, and he's trying to do it and which we have had line of duty or in custody deaths that way. So I hit the van, I'm like, he's going to kill himself. I hit the van real hard. So he like falls, cause like, he was trying to do it. We grab him, we chuck him on the ground. We take his belt and whatever. We get Miss Crazy out to cuff her at this point. And then units follow me to the jail. So we get to the jail. At this point, Miss MDMA has slipped her entire cocktail dress, like just from her acting a fool. So, and I get to the jail and I tell the COs, and if you're a cage kicker here, just, I appreciate you, but sometimes you guys can be dicks for no reason. And so we get Mr. Crazy out. He's fine. Like they know he's going to need some extra attention. So I'll come out for them. And I'm like, listen, while you're here, can you help me out with her? She's already made weird allegations. I want witnesses and blah, 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 blah. I get the female officer out there, and she did not like my agency, probably because we arrested the most people in the county and we made her work. Open the door, and the chick's butt naked. She goes, you can't bring them here like this. I'm like, I didn't do it. I was like, she slipped the dress off of her. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was too much of an issue.
She wasn't like that when I put her in there.
Right. I was like, she was fine. Check the camera. It wasn't me. So, and she was passed out at that point. She finally like hit her high and she was out. So they got her all taken care of, but very rarely is a female arrestee or female subject who's going to be naked. Anything you want to see. And I always laugh now when the new guys, it's like, oh, we've got a naked 22-year-old female down Main Street, and everyone's like, I'm around. I'm like, okay, you guys have fun with that, because if she's naked, something bad just happened, or she's crazy. It's never what you want. Yeah,
it's not like it's like I don't know where that TV show Baywatch was ever filmed at. I've never been to I'm not a beach person, but I've never been to a beach where everybody on there is sexy. And that's probably why I never been to it, because I was not invited to that beach. They'd look at me. No, you're not allowed. You don't have a 6-pack. You make fat boy beaches down there.
Right. Yeah. No. And even, we worked the beach, but beach was a separate agency for us. So it wasn't our jurisdiction. But we had to deal with all the spillover when the beach closed, or, when they went to restaurants or bars or whatever. Yes. Did I come across attractive people? Absolutely. But they were never the ones that we were getting calls of service for. Like those people tend to be more put together, and they don't have to have a need for emergency services. So it's just crazy stuff. And then you, like you said, with the meth heads and the ones with the sores all over their bodies and missing, they got some are teeth, some are there, some are not. And it's just bad stuff.
Yeah. Was it today? Was it today or yesterday? I was talking to somebody. It was yesterday. We were talking to somebody on why some people might choose to do drugs, especially like meth and stuff like that. Because you see people on meth there. I mean, it just fucks them all up. It's like just wake up one morning. It's like, yeah, I think I'm gonna do some of that meth. I want sores and on my face, my teeth fall out. I just can't wait to do that. It's like,
yeah. Well, I talked to one of them who said that they got hooked on it from Ritalin, because I think it's Ritalin. If you read what did it have? We had a search warrant and we had some pills and we ran the.
Oh no, I take Ritalin in the first. It don't say Ritalin.
Amphetamine.
It says the I don't know the whole long word, the medical word, but when you read it, the first thing it's meth. It actually says meth on it. So.
Yeah, and that's how this one guy would get hooked on it, or that's how he ended up. And a lot of times, same with heroin, like it starts from like an accident, and they get hooked on like painkillers, and then before you know it, they don't do it anymore, and they got to go for something more. But yeah, I don't get it, and I've talked to people in the past, having worked, narcotics and investigations, trying to flip people or just trying to figure out what's going on in their brain, and I'm like, there was one girl. She was out on pretrial for a heroin possession case, and on her pretrial release, she couldn't use drugs, and then she overdosed. So, and then when they Narcaned her, I went to the hospital because she was my target, and she was going to go to jail. She was going to serve her pretrial, and I sit her down and I go, "What are you doing?" I was like, because you overdosed and you've seen people overdose, that there are two ways that this story ends for you: either jail or death. That's it. Like, why do you continue doing it? And then, she had a sob story and whatever. And I thought our come to Jesus moment was effective. She was in custody for quite some time, up until I left the agency, and significantly afterwards, she was in custody. Found out last week that she's back out. She's tricking now on the street. Her boyfriend, who she would OD with all the time, he ended up dying. So now she's out tricking. And I was like, well, it was good for the 6 months that I put her in jail. So what are you going to do?
It's crazy what the drugs will do to them people like that.
Yeah. And I say to them all the time, or I say to people all the time, like, nobody is a 8-year-old bouncing boy or girl and goes, you know what I want to do? You know what I want to grow up to be? A heroin addict. That'd be just tops. Obviously things happen to people and it's unfortunate if we get serious for a second. But it's just, as a police officer that has to deal with the greatest show on earth, it gets, you have to make light of these situations. Otherwise, it's just gonna tear you up.
Well, on the serious side, I believe some people are just more prone disposition-wise to addiction than other people are. I don't know if it's some kind of chemical imbalance or whatever. And I do believe a lot of his genetics. I've seen it. I ain't saying the names, but I've seen it with some people. This person's, mother OD'd. And, he's an alcoholic. It just seems like it may be something genetic or something, but it just seems some people are more susceptible to being addicted to stuff like that. So I don't know. And now that they did the big lockdown on opioids because they had all the people on pills. Mm-hmm. Now what do we have? We have a bunch of people ODing constantly on fentanyl because people can't get pills no more. They're going over and using fentanyl. They didn't stop anything. Oh, the opioids. No, all they did was leave the pills because they can't get them because it's too hard to get now. And they just went and started using fentanyl, which is way more dangerous.
Yep, you're absolutely right. And it started as people were getting fentanyl not by accident, but they were using it to cut it because it was cheap. And now I know, people order fentanyl. They're like, yeah, no, I want the good stuff. That's good stuff. It would be white or brown, and brown would be straight heroin, and white would be fentanyl. And they'd want white. They said, no, I want white. Where I worked, I think they called it white boy and brown boy, and that would be what they would order. And they'd say, no, man, I want the white. And I'm like, you realize that's killing you, right? Like that, your chances of dying are dramatically higher. But they say that the high is better. And I'm like, yeah, because you're almost dead.
Yeah. And talk about, like I said, we talked about it not long ago on another episode. once you got somebody ODing and they Narcan them, when they come out of it, that's one pissed off son of a bitch down there because now you done fucked their high up.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like you were.
I mean, how many stories of ODs turning into fights just because, you know, one, they don't know who you are, why you're in their face, shit like that. But two, because they're pissed that you ruined the high. It's crazy. And you know, you talk about cops shouldn't be sent to mental illness calls. Cops probably shouldn't be administering Narcan either. Like that's not our boat.
Well, we don't carry Narcan. Us.
Oh, you don't? That's good.
No, we got fire department and you know the ambulance, the paramedics and stuff. They do it. We don't carry Narcan.
Yeah, our agency, my last agency, it was originally given to us in case we got exposed on the street, the officers, and then. So that's what I kept it for. I kept it in my go bag, and everyone knew where it was, whatever. Then it started to be, hey, this guy's ODing, go grab your Narcan to other people. No one said it to me for a long time, and they would do it. They'd pop them, and then it became a department policy. If you have it, you will administer it, and then it became, you will have it, and you will administer it, and it's just like. Slowly we became more, and I was like, and then the crazy irony of all that is back when my CPR certification lapsed, I said, hey, can I go take a CPR refresher course and can I bill you guys for it? And they go, no, we're not going to accept that liability. I was like, oh, okay, let me just go ahead and administer some needle medication. Yeah, I was like, okay.
The little puffer up the nose or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then I said, and then as things progressed, I was like, okay, can I get EMT certified? No, I said it as a joke because I knew they'd say no, but I was like, if I'm going to start giving out medication, I'd like to be. I got yelled at once before the whole Narcan thing because we arrested somebody and he was a diabetic and he said that he was going through it, and I gave him a cup of water and I think he already had food in his property. He's like, listen, can I get that? My blood sugar is going to crash and I'm going to crash and it's going to be bad. So I said, okay, sure. I got yelled at by the sergeant, like, no, we don't give them anything because we don't know what it's laced with, blah, 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 blah. Fast forward 3 years and we're sticking things up people's noses. I was like, this is crazy. I can't help a diabetic not crash, but if a guy's ODing, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we had some issues with, we had a little stint for a while. We were getting a lot of ODs. I think we got most of those in jail right now.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I noticed that ODs have kind of calmed down for a minute, but it comes in waves. I know my old agency, because we had a DEA task force working with us, and they were keeping track of all the overdoses in the jurisdiction. I can't remember the number now, but we had a triple-digit number for yearly overdoses and Narcan deployments and things like that. And it's like I said, right now it seems like we haven't had those calls in a minute. Even from sitting on a dispatch side, I really haven't seen that a lot. We've had like overdoses as far as like suicide attempts, but not like accidental heroin, fentanyl overdoses. So I don't know if they're, because you think about it, you know, if you're a drug dealer and you're going to start giving everybody fentanyl, well, eventually you're going to kill off your entire customer supply. So that's not good business.
Okay. Well, I was a drug dealer. I had to file bankruptcy because I killed all my clients died.
Right. Yeah.
That was crazy.
Oh, man, you got to go to Iceman. He's got the best shit. Yeah. It kills people.
I got the good shit. Come here. It was nice knowing you.
People are dying to try it, man.
Well, it might have helped when they started. Didn't they start? I think I read about some cases where some people died and they charged a drug dealer with murder or some shit like that. Mm-hmm. But maybe they started cutting it with more or something where it wasn't quite so potent.
I know that when I was talking to our DEA guy, he actually said that was a difficult thing to prosecute, even though that it had like a lot of media attention. It's a difficult thing to get first off the U.S. attorney to go with, because he was on the federal level as a task force officer, but also just getting all the evidence to, it's easy to get to the point of, you know, this guy OD, this was the last dealer he talked to. They they do a buy and then they hook them. But to get all of that lined up as far as evidentiary standards are concerned, it's a pain in the ass. So if you're in a jurisdiction where they do it and they're successful, that's a lot of hard work and it's great. but maybe that did scare a couple people from continuing to do. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Like I said, I think they're probably just cutting it. They ain't stopped using it.
Yeah. No, absolutely not. So they probably cut it with something else now.
Now, the wife must be home. I heard other noise on. That's kind of messed me up for a little bit. On your podcast, I do listen to his podcast, but he gets like really smart people on his. We talked about it before we started recording. It's like the last one I just listened to. It's like I guess he still is a captain or used to be a captain.
Yeah, he's still a captain. Yeah,
wrote like a couple of books and all kind of stuff like that. So y'all do need to go check it out. And you have your meme page.
Yep. That came first. You know, what came first, the chicken or the egg? I did the started the meme page. I don't know if we said it before you press record or not, but I started the meme page back in 2019. I had just moved into my new apartment, and I had made it. The way I started making memes was in the academy, just to bullshit with the guys that I worked with or that I was in class with. I took the idea from a guy that was in the class with. He would make memes based on us, based on people that were in the class. I was like, oh, he's getting some attention for that. That's kind of funny. And I started doing it too. And I just got obsessed with it. I would do it all the time, carried on into working. And I would just start generalizing it a little bit more. And I made one meme about troopers and city cops. And I sent it to my buddy who was a trooper, who used to be a city cop, and a few others. That was it, no big deal. And then I'm in my apartment scrolling Facebook and I see that meme. And I was like, wait a second, that's shared by Big Page. Big Page was like 1 million followers. And the meme itself had thousands and thousands of likes and shares and stuff. I was like, that's crazy. I messaged the dude and I'm like, hey, that's my meme. And he goes, that's cool. And that's it.
I just took your shit.
Yeah. And I was like, well, that's not cool. So I went on Instagram. I made the 10-8 memes page for the very reason of, okay, if this happens again, people know where to find it. Like I get some kind of notoriety for it. And then I posted that meme on the page. And because it was a new page, I got like 1 like on it. And I started just taking the memes that I already had in my phone for the past couple of years, putting the little 10-8 memes logo or name on it and just start reposting all those. Eventually people started following me from like California and just all over the country. And then it just became a hobby. I did that for a year, a little less than a year. And I started getting more active on Instagram, start communicating with people and posting and sharing more content. And I was like, people seem to give a damn what I'm saying. I don't really know why, but they do. And I have a history in like broadcasting, and I was like, it'd be real and like production stuff. And I was like, it'd be really cool if originally I wanted to do a video series it was going to be the Coffee with the Cop show. And I was just going to sit there and I would have a cup of coffee and I'd talk about shit. And that name was taken. And I was like, I really don't want my face anywhere because my agency didn't know about it at that time. I didn't want to get jammed up at all. So I was like, well, I could do a podcast. Then it could all just be audio. It could be my voice, which is pretty identifiable too, but I don't use my name. No big deal. So I set up the podcast. I had made some nice connections through the page, got some guys of notoriety on there. And so now I've been doing the meme page coming up on the start of the 3rd year, and the podcast. I'm in the 2nd year of the podcast too. So maybe I'm actually off a year in my thing, but so I've been doing it for a while, and it's been good. I might have to check, but last I checked this morning, the episode I put out, I was just shy of 100,000 downloads, which I'd never, when I started, thought that would even be a thing. But it's pretty wild.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and people message me all the time. They're like, dude, how'd you come across it? I'm at 99,923 downloads right now. People message me, new pages coming up, new podcasts, new connections. And they're like, how'd you get so big? And I think I paid for 2 ads on Instagram trying to grow my page. And it was the biggest waste of my money because you can set your demographic, and I would say like mostly males in their mid 20s to mid 30s, because that's what most of my audience is.
But females listen to podcasts more, I think.
Actually, that's actually more guys.
Is it?
Yeah, but just generally, that's just what I tried to do. Well, guess what? You know what? Also, is that age demographic? A lot of trolls, a lot of like social justice warriors and everything, and that's what that ad got me. So I was like, well, that's stupid. Don't waste your money on that. Just word of mouth, and that's like I said, I made some nice friends through the pages of some nice sized following. And just by getting my name out there, getting my page and the podcast out has really been the key to my growth. And yes, it's mostly just memes. That's but my passion and what I really enjoy doing the most is the podcast. I've always been creative. I'd done film in high school. I did in college. I did some communication and broadcast stuff. So that was like always been my passion. Then this gave me a chance to do it, but also integrate police work in it too, which has been my drug of choice, if you want to say that, for the last 7 or so years. So it's been a fun run for sure.
Yeah, well, I'm catching up with you on the downloads. So,
nice.
But I have had like I said, every month I get a little bit more and a little bit more. Like I said, it's by word of mouth and stuff like that, and being on different people's podcasts and stuff like that, because bigger or smaller, you discussed that earlier, it don't matter to me.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. It doesn't matter, because if 5 people are listening to Johnny's podcast and you're on it, and then those 5 people check out your podcast, well, then there's 5 more people. And that's the thing on my podcast. I just like reaching people, and I like talking to people. And the only reason the numbers matter to me is because I want to reach more people. It has nothing to do with money or fame, if you want to call it that. It's just because I think sometimes I have an important message on there, and I really want to reach more people. That's really the only reason why I care about the numbers. And my girlfriend gets on me. She's like, stop looking at the numbers. Like
I used to obsess. I'll be honest, but I started doing seasons, so I'm kind of stuck. But my seasons are 1 year at a time. Mm-hmm. So I'm just starting in the 3rd season, so it hadn't been quite 3 years yet. And when I first started, I was real obsessed with the numbers. I may check. I think I usually check them like once a day now. Mm-hmm. And that's about it, because I can't just obsess over the numbers.
Right.
That.
And I was doing,
because you can get discouraged too on it. You put something
and that was
out.
what was happening. And I would sit next to her, and I'm like, oh man, this podcast that I thought was going to be really good, and I put a lot of effort into it, it's not performing that well. And what really was happening was I was looking at it too closely. I was looking at it daily, and the daily fluctuation would piss me off or would upset me. But when I zoomed out and I was looking at like the yearly or monthly, it was either holding steady or it was actually trending upward. So she was like, get the app off your phone. I use anchor.fm as the app. She's like, get the app off your phone. Check it when you update, you put up a new podcast once a week or whatever. Let that be your day of like checking on it, and then just stop doing it, because it's pissing you off. And I did. And it's been so much more freeing that way. To not do it. And my dog is kicking the dresser, so just disregard him. He's gonna start making some noise right now. But
it's like my episodes that do the worst, believe it or not, is during the first week of every month. I started doing for a while now. I do the end of watch episode. Mm-hmm. I don't do any talking. I mean, I talk, but I don't do any stories or anything like that. All I do is I go on there and every law enforcement officer that died from the memorial page that they have listed for that month, I read their name, the department, how long they were working. I don't do it for the COVID ones, but the other people, if they got shot, run over, however they died, I read each thing on how they passed away and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Those, I understand why. I guess a lot of people don't want the gloom or whatever of it, but nobody ever talks about them. So
yeah, I did last year around Police Memorial Week. I did one for the previous year, and I did COVID and everything. And I thought going into it, because a story had come out. I can't remember what it was, but it pissed me off. Some city official I think actually it was not to get political. I know you do that on your other show. But one political official was like reading the list of every person that was killed by police in a public setting. And I was like, this is bullshit. It pissed me off. So I went on ODMP and I read everybody that died the year prior, and including COVID. And I thought, all right, this would be like a little 5-minute bit, no big deal. It ended up being a 20-minute read of all these people, and it was terrible. And I was going to do 2020, and I was going to do up to 2021 for when I did it, which was probably like April or May of last year. I never got to 2021 because it was just so long.
2021 was very long. Like I said, I've been doing it since sometime 2021. Like I said, I do it every month, though. I just do it the first of every month. So I said, but I thought maybe, but I continue doing it because not enough people do it. But yeah,
sure,
I can't.
Sure. Yeah, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to do the 2021 version. My buddy was killed in line of duty, so I'm going to do it for him. I'm supposed to go up to police week for him, but things happened. I wasn't able. I don't think I'll be able to go. But it is terrible. It's terrible that it doesn't get the publicity it needs. Obviously, I think the agencies that are affected by it, they deal with it appropriately most of the time. I haven't seen an agency, even like big ones like NYPD, they seem to honor their sacrifice. But the fact that nationally it's not recognized adequately enough to me, that's very frustrating. So I appreciate that you do it, and I noticed that as you and I were starting to set this up, I looked you up and I saw that you did that, and I was like, that's really cool. Knowing that in July or August of last year, I know you mentioned my buddy's name, like, you know what I mean? Like that means a lot to me. And it's just it's a big deal. And, it needs to, this dog is pissing me off. It's a very big deal. So I do appreciate that you do that. And it sucks that it's not a popular topic, but I get why it's not. For me, my episodes that don't do well are mental health episodes, which is a big deal for me. And I think it's because cops just don't want to think about it. They don't want to like call themselves out on.
We know what the stigma is with that. You've been on the job. You know what I mean. Unfortunately, it's like they're like, oh yeah. Some of these departments like, oh yeah, we'll help you out. And it's like, I mean, I've been fortunate enough. I had one little thing when I was transitioning from one department to the other. I had a little. I mentioned it before, so in the secret, I had a little thing of depression and stuff like that. Worked through it, and still I'm getting close. I'm pushing out. I mean, I'm 3 years out and I can retire. And am I going to do some drop, or am I going to keep going and do this? I'm still trying to figure that out because I will only be 54 years old, and we might have to do a serious one because I'm about to get serious. We'll have to do another episode, but it's like in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, what am I going to do after that? Because, I've talked about it in other ones, and it's hard, even though I say it, it's like, don't let the job define who you are.
Yeah.
And it's so hard not to do that because I've been doing this for, over half of my life, almost 30 years. And it's basically a big part of who I am. So when I'm not doing it no more, who am I going to be? Mm-hmm. So we'll have to do another one on that.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking, and we were talking right before we pressed record, how we're going to do a two-parter. We can probably touch on that on mine because, we tend to get, it's weird because I started mine because obviously I'm a meme page. I started as a comedy podcast, and I noticed I had more serious episodes than not. So now I changed. I think I'm a culture podcast, whatever.
Well, I'll say I listened to your last episode today, and with that guy, and there's some things I didn't agree with, but he had a whole lot of good information too that I did agree with also. Mm-hmm. So I mean, because not everybody's going to agree with everything everybody else has to say, of course.
Sure. Yeah. But and I just like I said before, I like talking to people. I like getting ideas that may not match with mine, because if all you're going to do is listen to your own opinion, you're not going to grow, or you're not going to change the way you go, So I do appreciate that. But yeah, definitely. I think we'll get you on and we can talk about all of that, because that's a common trend on my show, is just, we do get deep, But at the same time, I like to have fun with it too.
The end of it was funny. I enjoyed your Family Feud part of it.
Did you? Good. You're like the first person.
Me and your guest there, because I was actually on my way home this afternoon when I was listening to it, and you'd asking the questions, and the guest you got, me and him, I was damn near answering the same exact thing he was because what your first one is, what's Cop's favorite movie? I went Die Hard, and he said Die Hard. Of course, we were both wrong, but but we both said the same exact thing. But he's been doing it 20-something years too, so pretty sure we have quite a bit of the same mindset. But I feel like we were answering almost tit for tat, same thing.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. It's nice seeing the different generations of cops. You know what I mean? Like I've talked to guys with 5 years on, no years on, 20 years on, and to me it's interesting seeing the different generations and the different mindsets that span them too.
Oh yeah, it's definitely different. Well, look, go ahead and tell them the information on where you're at and how to find you and everything like
Absolutely. That. So Instagram, I'm at 108 spelled out TENEIGHT_memes. I'm also on Facebook, 108 memes spelled out, no underscore on that one. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, whatever, just type in 108 podcast. It'll show up. On all those sites, I got merch, some t-shirts and some other stuff if you want to grab them. Just some dorky stuff to do, but those are basically the best places to find me now.
And everybody, y'all go check him out. Like I said, he's in my playlist. I listen to him. I forgot to do the stuff in the beginning because I'm old and forget. Go like and subscribe, hit the bell. If you're on Apple, give me a 5-star review, write a review, I'll shout you out. And remember to smile because the Iceman could always be behind you.